Welcome to this deep dive. If you are a Los Angeles property owner, actively trying to secure your investment, or you simply want to understand the hidden mechanics of the systems protecting you every day, you are the exact reason we designed this conversation. Today, we're looking at the rapidly changing landscape of physical security. We're analyzing that tension between modern app-driven convenience and, well, hardcore kick-the-door-down physical defense.
It's a profound tension, honestly. Consumers want the frictionless experience of unlocking a door with a smartwatch, but the physical reality of a crowbar or a lockpick, that hasn't changed at all. The rules of how we balance those two realities are shifting much faster than most people realize.
Right. And to understand that shift, we are working through a massive stack of data today.
Oh yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, we have the 2025 IBS World Industry Analysis for the locksmith sector, a detailed report on the top 10 locksmith trends in 2025, some hands-on technical reviews of the latest smart hardware, and some dense technical manuals, most notably the famous MIT Guide to Lockpicking.
The classic.
Seriously. And we also pulled some real-world stories from field locksmiths just to ground all this in reality. Our mission here is to cut through the marketing noise and give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed. We want to help you move from a reactive mindset,
Where you only think about security after a break-in.
exactly, moving from that to a completely proactive strategy for your home or business.
Because, in the security industry, reacting means you've already lost something, whether it's inventory, a sense of safety, or just thousands of dollars in emergency repairs. The goal is to implement systems that prevent the crisis from materializing in the first place.
Definitely. Now, before we get into the actual mechanics of how these systems work, I want to mention that this deep dive is sponsored by West Point Locksmith. You can reach them by phone at 310-295-4040. They are fast, reliable, and professional locksmiths serving all of Los Angeles. From emergency lockouts to rekeying, smart locks, and car key replacements, they're available 24/7 to keep your home, business, and vehicle secure. Check out their 5-star reviews.
And having a vetted local professional on speed dial, that's really step one of any proactive security plan, especially as we dive into how complex modern door hardware has actually become.
Okay, let's unpack this. Looking at the 2025 industry trends, there is a fundamental psychological shift happening in how we think about access.
Yeah, absolutely.
For decades, security meant physical possession, right? You held a jagged piece of brass and that granted you entry. But now the demand is shifting entirely toward identity-based access. People want their front door to recognize them the same way their smartphone does.
The paradigm is moving from what you have to who you are. The sources indicate that biometrics are just dominating the residential market right now. For example, hardware like the Acquire U100 allows you to unlock your door by simply tapping it with an Apple device using Apple HomeKit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it stores up to 50 distinct fingerprints. And these sensors, they've evolved way past the glitchy scanners from 10 years ago. They use advanced capacitance to read the subdermal layers of your skin.
So a photograph isn't going to work.
Exactly. A photograph or a dirty finger, it won't fool them.
But, the shift to keypads and touchscreens, that introduces new vulnerabilities, too.
It does.
If you type the same 4-digit code into a glass touchscreen every single day, the oils from your fingers leave a map.
Right, the smudge marks.
Yeah. A persistent burglar doesn't need to hack your Wi-Fi. They just need to look at the glass to narrow down your PIN.
It's a classic example of a physical vulnerability compromising a digital system. But manufacturers are tackling this with dynamic interfaces. Take the Lockly Secure Pro, for instance. They introduced a feature called Pin Genie. Instead of a static number pad, the numbers are grouped into small circles on the screen, and those groupings shuffle every single time the screen wakes up.
Oh, that's clever. So even if someone is standing 10 feet behind you or analyzing the screen later, the physical location you touched doesn't correlate to the same numbers twice.
Exactly. It's an elegant software fix for a very analog problem.
That makes sense. But as I read through the technical specs of these different smart locks, I noticed a huge divide in how they actually communicate with the outside world. It really seems to come down to Wi-Fi versus Z-Wave.
Yeah, and that networking distinction is arguably the most critical choice a property owner will make.
Really?
Oh yeah. Wi-Fi locks, like the Schlage encode, they're incredibly popular because they connect directly to the internet router you already have. You take it out of the box, enter your Wi-Fi password, and you're online.
Super easy. Super easy. But maintaining a constant Wi-Fi connection requires a significant amount of power. Those locks will chew through a set of AA batteries in a matter of months.
Yeah, I get the appeal of not having to buy extra equipment. But replacing batteries every few months sounds like a fast track to getting locked out in the rain.
Nobody wants that.
So what's the alternative with Z-Wave?
So Z-Wave locks, like the Schlage Connect or the Yale Assure 2, they use a low-energy radio wave. They just sip battery power, often lasting well over a year.
That's way better.
But the trade-off is that Z-Wave cannot communicate directly with your standard internet router. It requires a dedicated smart home hub, like a Ring alarm, base station, or SmartThings hub, to act as a translator between the lock and your Wi-Fi network.
I suppose adding a hub does introduce another piece of hardware into the equation.
Mhm.
But if you're building out a broader smart home security system anyway, standardizing on low-energy Z-Wave makes a lot of sense.
And for property owners looking to minimize hardware entirely, the sources highlight these all-in-one systems, like the Eufy Video Smart Lock E330.
That one is fascinating.
It integrates a biometric lock, a 2K HD security camera, and a video doorbell into one chassis. And it runs on a massive 10,000 milliamp hour rechargeable battery and stores video locally, completely bypassing those monthly subscription fees that kind of dominate the rest of the market.
The practical application of this technology, it just fundamentally changes property management. If you own a home in Los Angeles and you rely on dog walkers, house cleaners, or service technicians, the era of hiding a spare key under the welcome mat is just over.
That mat is the absolute first place anyone with bad intentions will look.
Exactly.
With these systems, you can generate an auto-expiring temporary PIN code from your desk at work. The code is valid for exactly the 2 hours the technician is scheduled to be there, and then it vanishes.
And you have an exact audit trail of who entered and when.
Which is fantastic for access management. However, we have to look critically at the foundation all this technology is built on. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes. The hardware.
Because a 2K camera and a biometric scanner are totally useless if the mechanical bolt sliding into the door frame can be bypassed by an amateur with a tension wrench in 15 seconds.
That brings us to the core tension we mentioned earlier. The mechanical foundation of your door is the ultimate failsafe. If the actual deadbolt is cheap, all that smart technology is just a fancy hood ornament.
Right. And to understand why standard locks are so vulnerable, we dug into the MIT Guide to Lockpicking and various law enforcement training manuals. I have to say, the mechanical reality of mass-produced locks is pretty unsettling.
It is. To visualize the vulnerability, it really helps to understand how a basic pin tumbler lock functions. Imagine the inside of a lock as a series of tiny vertical tubes.
Okay.
Inside each tube are two small metal pins stacked on top of each other, pushed down by a tiny spring. The bottom pin is the key pin, and the top pin is the driver pin.
And when the lock is at rest, those top driver pins are pushed down across the exact line where the inner cylinder needs to turn, right?
Yes. They essentially act as tiny deadbolts blocking the rotation.
Okay, so think of that line, the gap between the turning cylinder and the outer housing, as a horizon line. The sources say locksmiths call it the shear line.
That's the technical term, the shear line. When you insert the correct key, the jagged cuts on the metal lift all those stacked pins to the exact perfect height.
So the gap between the bottom pin and the top pin perfectly aligns with the shear line across all the tubes simultaneously.
Like puzzle pieces snapping into place. The obstruction is cleared, and the cylinder turns freely.
But the MIT guide details a critical flaw here. Mass-produced locks from big box stores have manufacturing tolerances. They're machined with a tiny bit of sloppiness to keep production costs down.
Right. The vertical tubes aren't aligned to microscopic perfection.
And lock pickers exploit that exact sloppiness.
Because the holes are slightly offset, a lock picker can apply a gentle rotational pressure to the cylinder using a tension tool. Then, using a pick to bounce the pins, a technique called scrubbing or vibration picking.
Right.
The pins will catch on the misaligned edges of the tubes. The lock picker is essentially tricking the lock into trapping the top pins above the shear line, one by one, until the cylinder suddenly gives way.
That's wild. And the manuals also detail bumping, which requires almost no skill at all.
None.
An intruder inserts a specially cut bump key, taps it with a mallet, and the kinetic energy transfers through the bottom pins, launching the top pins above the shear line for a fraction of a second.
And if they apply turning pressure at that exact millisecond, the lock opens. It's a terrifyingly simple exploitation of physics.
This is exactly why the industry is seeing a massive surge in demand for high-security deadbolts. Manufacturers are redesigning the internal geometry to fight back against picking and bumping.
Yes. Instead of using smooth, straight cylindrical pins, High-security locks use driver pins carved into specific shapes, like little mushrooms or spools or pins with serrated ridges.
So if an intruder tries to bump or pick a mushroom-shaped pin, how does the lock respond?
The lock weaponizes the attacker's pressure against them. If you try to lift a mushroom pin without the precise key, the wider head of that mushroom shape catches hard on the edge of the shear line.
So it gets stuck.
Exactly. The cylinder might turn a millimeter, creating what the industry calls a false set, which makes the attacker think they successfully picked the pin.
But they haven't.
No, in reality, the mushroom head has jammed the lock entirely. It binds up so tightly that further vibration, picking, or bumping becomes impossible.
Wow. And the defensive engineering extends to the exterior of the lock as well. The sources show high-end manufacturers bevel the edges of the pinholes to deflect picking tools, and they embed hardened steel drill plates directly into the face of the cylinder.
Right, so if an intruder gives up on finesse and tries to destroy the lock with a power drill, the bit will hit that steel plate and just shatter.
They also surround the deadbolt with free-spinning guard rings, neutralizing pipe wrenches, or vice grips.
The entire philosophy of physical security is about layering frustration. You are forcing an intruder to make excessive noise and spend a significant amount of time trying to bypass the hardware.
Because noise and time are the two variables criminals want to avoid at all costs.
Absolutely.
If you are auditing your own doors right now and realizing you have standard mass-produced deadbolts protecting your home, this is the moment to act. Whether you want to upgrade to a high-security deadbolt utilizing mushroom pins, or you're ready to integrate a top-tier smart lock, West Point Locksmith is the team to call. Give them a ring at 310-295-4040. With 5-star reviews across LA, they handle everything from smart locks to emergency lockouts 24/7.
And, shifting from residential to commercial security, the scale of vulnerability changes dramatically.
Well, for
If bypassing a residential lock is a concern, imagine the liability when a compromised key can access 50 different offices. What's fascinating here is that according to the 2023 State of the Industry report by Locksmith Ledger, 81% of locksmiths state that electronic access control is fundamentally transforming their commercial operations.
81%. That's huge. The traditional image of a commercial locksmith swapping out brass door handles is really evolving into something closer to a tech security consultant.
Exactly. Small businesses are recognizing that standard keys offer zero visibility. If something goes missing over the weekend, a physical key cannot tell you who was in the building.
So businesses are moving toward multi-site, cloud-based access control. They require layered access and exhaustive audit logs.
Right. A business owner now expects a dashboard showing exactly which employee badge opened the server room door at 2:12 a.m.
Despite that digital shift, though, mechanical master key systems remain a foundational element of commercial spaces. We've all experienced this. Your employee key only opens the front door and your specific office, but the facility manager's key miraculously opens every door in the building.
Yep.
From a mechanical standpoint, how does one key open locks with completely different pin configurations?
It goes back to that shear line puzzle we discussed earlier. In a standard lock, you have a bottom pin and a top pin. To create a master keyed system, a locksmith drops a tiny, flat third pin, called a master pin, directly between them.
Okay, so you're introducing a second break in the vertical pin stack.
Precisely. By adding that third pin, you create two distinct heights where the pins can perfectly align at the shear line. The specific employee key aligns the pins using one mathematical combination, granting access to that single door.
And the manager's key.
The manager's master key utilizes the second mathematical combination, which the locksmith has systematically embedded across dozens of different locks throughout the building.
It's a brilliant application of mechanical mathematics.
It really is, but it requires rigorous key control to remain secure.
Now, the commercial data also revealed a threat that has absolutely nothing to do with burglary. Upgrading door hardware is increasingly about protecting small businesses from predatory lawsuits.
This is a highly specific but critical issue for commercial property owners, particularly in California. There's a cottage industry of serial litigants who target small businesses for minor ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, door hardware violations.
Right, like if an older building still uses round doorknobs instead of lever handles.
Yes. It technically violates accessibility standards because a round knob requires tight grasping and twisting of the wrist.
And these litigants will simply walk the street, document the round knobs, and file a lawsuit.
Just like that. The financial impact of those suits usually starts with a $15,000 minimum settlement. And that doesn't even factor in attorney fees or the eventual construction costs to achieve compliance.
That's brutal for a small business.
It is. So commercial locksmiths are now acting as compliance shields, proactively replacing outdated knobs with compliant lever systems to protect business owners from these catastrophic legal expenses.
It really highlights how preventative maintenance is exponentially cheaper than an emergency response. We often don't calculate the true cost of a security failure until we're right in the middle of it.
That's the painful truth.
To illustrate exactly what that chaos looks like, we pulled a field report from a working locksmith, Wayne Winton. He documented a midnight emergency call at a remote commercial retail store. The primary entry door utilized an electronic maglock, which is a heavy-duty electromagnet holding the door shut.
And the maglock system suffered a complete electronic failure.
Exactly.
Now, maglocks are designed to be incredibly secure, but when the electronics fail, you rely on the mechanical override. In this case, the mechanical paddle, the interior crash bar you push to exit, it was physically broken from years of neglect.
And the initial security technicians who responded couldn't diagnose the broken mechanical paddle. Frustrated, they simply bypassed the entire electronic system, putting the door into passage mode.
Which essentially disables the locking mechanism entirely so the door swings freely.
Right. They left a retail business wide open and unsecured in the middle of the night.
It's a cascading failure. A technical glitch turns into a mechanical roadblock, which leads to human error, resulting in total vulnerability.
So Wayne was called in on a $1,000 emergency ticket to fix the mess. He had to bypass the failed electronics and mount a heavy-duty mechanical lock just to secure the front entrance.
But the situation deteriorated when he inspected the rear double doors, right?
It was a disaster. The hinges were so severely neglected and bent that the two steel doors actually overlapped in the center. The internal vertical security rods were shattered. He spent the night hanging off a ladder, using a specialized tool called a hinge doctor to forcibly bend the steel back into alignment.
Just so he could jam the doors shut and prevent the building from being looted.
Yeah. That story is the reality of deferred maintenance. When security fails, it is messy, highly stressful, and incredibly expensive.
The data clearly shows a massive surge in commercial security upgrades only after a failure has occurred. The baseline cost to replace standard exterior locks ranges from $50 to $300. Commercial installations range from $150 to $450 per door.
Compare that to a $1,000 midnight emergency invoice, and the value of being proactive becomes obvious.
And it isn't just the property owners waking up to this math. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the insurance industry is aggressively dictating security standards.
Because insurers possess the actuarial data, and they're tired of paying out claims for easily preventable break-ins.
Exactly. Insurance mandates are becoming a primary driver of hardware upgrades. In many markets, home insurance policies now strictly require British standard, specifically BS 3621, 5-lever mortise locks on all exterior doors.
What makes a 5-lever lock so special?
It integrates the locking mechanism directly into the door itself and uses a complex series of levers rather than standard pins, making it highly resistant to drilling and picking. If your property is burgled and the adjuster finds you are using a cheap deadbolt instead of the mandated standard, your claim can be denied entirely.
Wow. So your insurance policy is acting as an enforcement mechanism for your physical security.
On the commercial side, business insurance premiums are increasingly tied to the sophistication of the building's access control. If a business owner can demonstrate a fully integrated digital audit trail paired with high-security deadbolts, their premiums often decrease.
But if they're relying on 30-year-old hardware with zero key control,
They're priced as a high-risk liability.
there's another 2025 trend that initially fell out of place in a discussion about heavy-duty steel and access logs: the rise of eco-friendly security hardware. It's not a topic usually associated with the locksmith industry.
True. But the manufacturing of traditional security hardware, like smelting brass, forging steel, it's incredibly resource-intensive. As large institutional buyers like major Los Angeles apartment developers push for LEED certifications, the demand for sustainable materials has spiked.
So we're seeing a distinct shift toward locks manufactured from recycled metals and materials with lower environmental impacts.
Yes. And the sources note that while these sustainable locks carry a slightly higher initial price point, the costs are falling rapidly as manufacturing scales up. Property owners want robust security, but they also want the life cycle of those materials to align with broader environmental standards.
And proactive security is also expanding its definition to protect properties from environmental threats, not just human ones. The industry is seeing massive growth in the integration of remote IoT, Internet of Things, sensors alongside smart locks.
I love this trend.
I can see how an integrated camera helps security, but how does an IoT moisture or temperature sensor tie in to access control?
Well, consider the specific challenges of Los Angeles real estate. We don't worry about freezing pipes, but older LA homes often have aging plumbing or water heaters tucked away in upstairs closets.
Oh, yeah.
A slow leak can destroy a home's foundation or flood multiple floors. Or consider a hillside property where the HVAC system fails during a September heat wave.
Mm.
Modern proactive systems use IoT sensors to monitor humidity, water presence, and temperature extremes.
Okay, so if a pipe under the sink starts leaking while you're out of town, the moisture sensor detects the water and instantly pings your smartphone.
Right.
You receive the alert, use your smart lock app to generate a temporary PIN code, and dispatch an emergency plumber to access the house and shut off the water before the hardwood floors are ruined.
You're solving a disaster while you're hundreds of miles away. That is the ultimate realization of a proactive system. The technology operates in the background, giving you the visibility and the mechanical control to mitigate damage before it escalates.
Synthesizing all of this data, what is the immediate, actionable advice for you, the listener? First, audit your physical doors today. If you recently moved into a tract home or a newly constructed LA apartment, get those locks rekeyed immediately.
Absolutely immediately.
Because construction sites heavily utilize master key systems, meaning dozens of contractors could hold a key that opens your front door. Have a professional eliminate those master pins.
Second, evaluate the physical structure of your doors and frames.
Yeah.
Upgrading to a high-security lock with hardened steel drill plates is entirely pointless if you install it on a hollow-core wooden door that someone can kick through with minimal effort.
Great point. Finally, rely on certified professionals to handle complex integrations. When you are blending Wi-Fi networks, biometric data, and precision mechanical shear lines, do not compromise the safety of your family or your business by installing a cheap, unverified smart lock you bought from an obscure website. Invest in vetted, quality hardware.
Ultimately, you're not just buying a piece of metal, you're investing in peace of mind.
Let's recap the ground we covered. We analyzed the paradigm shift toward biometric and mobile-enabled smart locks, detailing how dynamic keypads protect your digital PIN. We broke down the mechanics of the shear line to understand why high-security deadbolts, utilizing mushroom pins and false sets, are non-negotiable for stopping bumping and picking. We explored how layered access control and ADA compliance are reshaping commercial security, and we highlighted how insurance mandates and eco-friendly manufacturing are driving the industry forward.
There's a lot of change happening very quickly.
It really is. And remember, do not wait until you are staring at broken maglocks and overlapping doors to take your security seriously. Call our sponsor, West Point Locksmith, at 310-295-4040. With 5-star reviews, they are Los Angeles' fast, reliable, and professional choice for your home, business, and vehicle, available 24/7.
As we wrap up this deep dive, consider this final thought. As the heavy physical deadbolt on your front door becomes fully integrated with your home Wi-Fi and cloud-based servers, the traditional boundary between physical security and cybersecurity completely vanishes. What happens when the most significant threat to the physical safety of your living room isn't a burglar standing on your porch with a crowbar, but a hacker sitting with a laptop on another continent?
That is a fascinating and unsettling reality to consider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and stay safe out there.